I'm Elizabeth Henson. Welcome to the Messy Success Podcast, where I'm helping creative dreamers and overachievers tackle business and life. After 6 years of being my own boss, I finally unraveled a tiny bit of what it takes to survive in this amazing world of being an overly creative entrepreneur. I'm your business bestie, here to help you with all those big ideas and to normalize some of the day-to-day struggles that we all share. My mission is simple. I want more women to make a living doing what they love and to feel good about themselves in the process. The best way to start? We can't do it alone. So welcome. I hope you'll hang out with me here where it's totally okay to be messy. Hello and welcome, and thanks for tuning in again to the Messy Success Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Henson. I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is going to be a little bit juicy because we're talking about the coffee chat debate. So last Sunday, I was on a panel at an event called Branding and Brunch. It was so fun. There was 6 of us on the panel offering different areas of expertise about branding or building a brand around your business. My specific topic was how to build community around your brand. And at some point, the coffee chat debate came up and we touched on it a little bit. And then in the last week, it came up again and again and again. So I said, okay, maybe the universe is inviting me to expand on this topic a little bit because it is definitely a hot topic nowadays with entrepreneurs and making connections online versus in person. A lot of these subjects that I continue to talk about. And I have both feelings, like I can see both sides of the fence when it comes to the coffee chat debate. So I'm hoping that I can come at this with a very realistic angle. So when I say the coffee chat debate, I mean when you might get emails or messages that someone is saying, hey, I would love to pick your brain. Can we do coffee or lunch sometime? Or, hey, I love what you're up to. Would you be interested in networking with me or collaborating with me? Like these very vague coffee pitches. And I keep saying coffee, but I really just mean lunch, drinks, whatever it might be. Okay. And I'm going to break this down basically into 3 parts. So there's the ask. I'm going to try to give you guys some surefire ways to be told yes when you step out of your comfort zone and become brave and make the ask. When you're the person being asked, there's some very specific boundaries that can help your business. And then the relationship, how to evaluate the relationship when you're making the ask, when you're saying yes. What do we do here? Okay. And I have to say, I polled my community in the Messy Squad. That's my free Facebook group. And I was like, I really want to talk on this, but can you guys tell me your feelings about this whole coffee chat debacle? And I was pleasantly surprised and a little bit shocked at how many people said they are absolutely pro networking in this way and that they are craving the face-to-face time with other people. And they are absolutely flattered when they get asked for coffee or asked on one of these networking dates. And that sometimes they don't always get to say yes, but that they always love being asked and that they truly value this process. That was such a breath of fresh air, and I was so proud of my community because there is a lot of negative energy around this topic. So a lot of people get messages asking to go to coffee and they immediately say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that, but I've got free content on my podcast. I've got free content on my blogs. So why don't you go check that out? Like they're immediately a little bit under the assumption that the person making the ask is trying to take advantage of them. And that's why the ask is so important. So I'm hoping that I can give you some tips so that if you are making the ask, it won't come across this way. Okay. But I was so pleasantly surprised that my community is all about this. So I felt like I could actually come to the podcast with a different take. I thought I was going to be trying to talk more about the people that are being asked and how to say no. But turns out, I think people actually want to say yes more than we think they do. Okay, so let's start off with some examples. When you are the person doing the asking, I think that it is very important that you are extremely clear. So when I get these pitches, when I get these asks, and it's just a vague, hey, I'd like to pick your brain, let's go for coffee, that's when I quickly say, you know what, I really can't do that. I don't have the time in my schedule right now, but I can offer you A, B, and C. I have a free community here. Oh, and guess what? I'm actually speaking at this event later in the month. You should totally go to that and we can talk and chit chat while we're there. So there's some really good ways as the person being asked that you can take these more aggressive pitches and then turn them into an opportunity, right? So we never want to shoo people away because it's amazing that they're even asking us. Even if their tactic is not amazing, it is flattering that they're asking us in the first place. So I always try to give them something in return. So even if I can't do it or I'm not super impressed with the pitch, I always try to very kindly let them know when or where I will be at an event. So, hey, you know what? I don't have any time in my schedule this month, but I will actually be at the Tuesdays Together meeting. I would love to see you there and we can sit next to each other and get to know each other. So that way I'm not actually creating time in my schedule. I'm just letting them know where I might be somewhere. Or, hey, I've got a free webinar coming up. I'd love to have you in the audience so that we can connect. There's so many ways that we can still encourage them to be part of our community if we can't make that happen at this time. So if you're the one doing the asking and you've been getting a lot of no's, I want you to really think about how honest you were in the pitch. So if I was to ask someone to coffee, I would probably say something like, hey, Susie, you know what? I'm really challenging myself this month to step outside of my comfort zone and ask 5 different people to come have coffee with me. I would love for you to be one of those 5 people, but I just want to let you know there are no strings attached to this. I promise I'm not doing the pick your brain thing, but I love what you're doing and I'm actually interested in getting you in front of my community. And in order to do that, I would feel so much more comfortable if I just knew you a little bit better. So that way it is very clear what my intention is. My intention is A, that I want to network with X amount of people per month. B, I really like what she's doing and I want the opportunity to get her in front of my audience, so that she knows she's walking into this actually being able to gain something as well. And all of that holds true because I very rarely, probably never, bring someone in front of my audience that I have not met, right? But it's a little uncomfortable. What if there is someone out there that I kind of want to meet and I kind of think is awesome, and my audience would think that they're awesome too? I have to somehow bridge that gap and invite them to get to know me a little bit better, because in order to share someone and endorse someone to my audience, that know, like, trust factor has to exist. So I want them to know that I'm not inviting them to lunch so that I can just get all the free tips and tricks possible, but also that I would love to help promote whatever it is that they're up to. Now, we have to be careful with that area too, because that could easily be spun as, well, what makes you think I need help promoting my business? So you don't want to word it like that. It needs to be more, I love what you're doing and I'd really think my audience would love it too. You know, there's a lot of different ways to go about that. It's so hard not to go down this crazy rabbit hole of each scenario because it is so unique. But just to recap, if you're the person doing the ask, the more clear you are, the better. If someone is extremely clear with me what I'm going to be doing in that time together and what they're actually interested in, it's so much easier for me to come up with an answer that will help us both. So say a photographer messages me and like, hey, I really need some help with Lightroom. I'm really struggling with my editing. I love your edits. I would absolutely love your help. Is there any way that we could meet? Okay, so that is a very clear ask for a specific educational tool. So I would then point them towards mentoring because they're asking for help in a specific area. So see, the more specific they are in the ask, the more specific I can be in the answer. So to meet someone for coffee or for lunch, that's just donating my time, right? And time is so valuable. So I need to know exactly what their intention is. Now, if we're friends, this is the whole evaluate the relationship part. If we're friends and we've been connecting on social media constantly, or maybe we've worked together before and they're just looking to hang, I totally might consider that. But I also want you to think about the time and space. So a lot of these pitches come in and they say, we'd love to meet with you in the next week or two. Okay. Go ahead and make the assumption that every successful business is booked out for at least 6 weeks. I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, when I look at the calendar, it's usually full from the 4 to 8 week mark. So just assume that everyone is booked out for the next 6 weeks of their life. So if you just want a social coffee hangout, just let them know and schedule it really far in advance. And then if there is space in the calendar for that, I try to leave my Fridays a little fluffy and it's a good friend, then let them be the decision maker to bump it up sooner. But when you pitch someone and you ask for their time in the next week or two, they're probably just not going to have it. They're probably not going to have that time in their calendar. Now, I remember the life before kids, before business, it was like, gosh, I had all the time in the world. But now I have 2.75 hours to work on my business while my kids are at school Monday through Friday. And that time is so precious. So it's very hard for me to get out. Sometimes I will do social things in the evenings or whatever, but it's very hard. So always make that assumption that the person is very, very booked. Okay. Now, when you're the person being asked, I talked a little bit about we don't want to say the hard no. We don't want to be cold and just say, no, but you can go read my blog post. Like, it is very important that we are always warm and inviting because we want these people to follow along our journey because it is actually very likely that they will invest in us at some point. If they have the courage and the energy to ask us for coffee, that is about as warm of a lead as you can get, right? So if I did end up saying yes, and then they walked away and invested in a one-on-one coaching opportunity with me, I would say that was an hour coffee well spent, right? A lot of people will jump on the phone for a sales call, so what's the difference? But again, it has to be very clear in the ask, and then we have to be very clear in our boundaries. So if it is someone that clearly wants to learn from me, I might say, you know what, I would actually be willing to meet you for coffee, but I just want to know that you would feel comfortable taking the next step with one of my offers if you feel like we're a good fit. It's okay to say those things. Like, you need help with your Lightroom editing. You need help growing your business. I would actually love to be that person for you. And I'm flattered that you asked, but I just need to know that some of my programs are in your budget and I'll totally meet you and we can consider this, a consultation or, what do some people call them? A discovery call. This can be a discovery meeting. But then that rolls back to the evaluating the relationship, right? If you're making the ask, are you in a place where you're brand new and you're asking someone who's very experienced, right? Most likely they have resources and they have paved the way for you to climb that little trust ladder to get into their circle, because sometimes we do have to invest in our programs. And this was one of the questions that came up when I asked about this on Instagram. Was how much info should you expect to share or receive, especially if the expert has paid programs? Is it appropriate to even ask someone who has paid programs? Is it rude or cheap not to be paying for those services? So, if you know someone has a program that you're interested in and you're asking them for coffee because you don't want to pay for it, then yes, absolutely. That's horribly rude. But like I said earlier, if this is a very high ticket program and you're interested and you just want to feel more comfortable in that investment, then I would say that is absolutely appropriate. But just know going into it that this is a discovery call. This is a consultation. Then I would say, yes, that's appropriate. Now, if they offer low ticket items, workshops, things where the ticket price is a little bit lower, but they're in bulk and you're asking them to meet you one-on-one for free, there's a little bit of a balance problem there. Because in theory, if you are, a newbie and you're wanting to get knowledge from someone that's experienced, right? Their one-on-one price is way more expensive than any type of group program. So just keep that in mind if you're asking someone who's extremely experienced. And you're going to be more likely to get the yes if you let them know that you are interested in the programs that they offer. Okay. Another thing that came up in the Facebook group that I thought was really great was we need to be grateful and appreciative of these people that are asking for our time, because if they were to stop asking, are we even still relevant, right? Are we even still relevant if they stop asking? So it is a good thing if people are asking you for your time, right? That is a good thing. Now, that brings me back to the 3 points, right? If you're making the ask, are you being clear and respectful of their time? And if you're being asked and you have to say no, do you have a plan in place to be warm and welcoming and still include them in your community so that when the time is right, they are ready to give you their money and to have that educational experience that they deserve, right? Evaluating that relationship. Is it peer-to-peer? Is it newbie to expert? Evaluate that relationship. And sometimes there's a little gray area, right? Like sometimes we look at ourselves in the mirror and we think we're this guru expert, but then the person asking us might actually look at us as their peer. Sometimes there is definitely some gray area there. And that's why the ask is so important. So another friend of mine in the group, Chrissy, made a really great point too. And she said, I don't ask unless it's going to be mutually beneficial. I see my time as being more valuable than money these days. So if it's going to cost me time, there has to be a reward. Business, emotional, factual information, etc. So because of that, I see others' time as equally valuable, which means I rarely ask unless I've counted the cost. I love that. I love specifically what she said about I've counted the cost. So she has evaluated their time, her time, and what both parties are going to be getting out of it, right? Now, I don't want to turn this into something that you're overthinking, because friends meet friends for lunch and coffee all the time, right? I'm talking a little bit more about strangers, when you reach out to a complete stranger. And I've done this before. I remember when I first started my photography business, and there was another photographer who started the same time as me. We had our daughters like within a week of each other. We were both kind of going through the same things at the same time. And I did reach out and ask her for coffee. And we lived, I think I even noticed that we lived like 10 minutes up the street from each other. So we had all these common threads. We were running in the same circles. She did say yes and did end up canceling, but that is okay. Like, that is okay. But I was definitely that person, but I did what I would hope to be a good job of evaluating the relationship. And I made it clear that I was more interested in kind of bonding over the mommy, business life stuff than, hey, I want to pick your brain. So being very clear about what it is that you're looking for. But don't let it be this big thing that overwhelms you or stops you from making the ask. Okay, I hope that was helpful, and I hope that you also know that it is absolutely okay to say no. No matter what the evaluation of the relationship is, you can always say no. And if the person on the other end gets hurt by that, then that is their issue and not yours. But always have that arsenal ready of places that you can send them. How you can encourage them to still be part of your community. Maybe there's an event down the road that you can meet them at, or a mutual location, or invite them into your free Facebook community or something. Always have something ready to give them in a way that expresses your gratitude that they even reached out to you in the first place. That is very important. And that is part of this whole concept that I talked about last episode of being a people magnet, right? How can we get people to want to come back to us over and over and over? And part of that is being a listener, letting them feel seen and heard. And even if we say no, we can do that in a way that they still feel very seen, very heard, and very important. I might even ask them, if I can't meet in person, I might say, you know what, you can actually email me a couple of questions, and I would love to take a few minutes out of my time and help you with that since I can't meet you. We can always offer something. If we can't donate that hour away from our family, then we can donate 10, minutes writing an email. And I'm not saying you have to do that either. But if you really value these people and you want to keep them as a part of your community, then making them, feel seen and heard is the most important thing you can do, which is part of my people magnet philosophy. So don't forget, if you missed it a couple of weeks ago, we had the free download on how to become a people magnet. So I will include that in these show notes as well. You can go to elizabethhensonphotos.com/28 or elizabethhensonphotos.com/podcast. That will get you to the show notes as well. And you can go grab that guide on how to become a people magnet. And this is a good thing because more people will probably ask you to coffee, but you will be ready to either say yes or to say no with so much grace that they will still continue to come back. And if you're the person doing the asking, I want to encourage you to keep doing that. Keep stepping out of your comfort zone. This is important work that you're doing. Networking is so important, and you guys know how much I value in-person relationships, and those successful in-person relationships always transfer into successful online relationships. Just make sure you are very clear in your ask, that you're gracious, that you've evaluated the relationship, and like Chrissy said, you have counted the cost. You've counted the cost of their time, you've counted the cost of your time, and you know that it's going to be mutually beneficial to both people. So I hope this episode was helpful. I know this is one of those can of worms topics that we could talk about over and over with all of these different examples. And I know that there are people in the world that will use and abuse and, take advantage. I definitely know that that exists. But the more that we can show up in the way that we need to for our business to attract the right people and the right energy, the less we're going to have to combat those issues. Just remember that the energy that you put out into the world is the energy that you are going to be getting back. So keep that heart full of gratitude. Keep showing up for your business. Say yes when it feels right. Say no when it feels right. But always continue to invite them back because you never know when they will turn into a client. All right, you guys, have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to go grab that guide on how to become a people magnet if you haven't gotten it yet. All right, see you guys later.